Hey, in the United States, it's a holiday weekend, and that means you're going to need some extra metal to listen to. And I know how to be extra. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, JonBarbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's album art of the week. It's the weekend. That means we got new metal albums dropping on us, and I'm bringing you my 5 favorite. Let's get it. Coming in at number 5, Midnight with Steel, Rust, and Disgust. Blackened speed metal out of Ohio, and this is some depraved speed metal. How so? What makes me say that? Well, one of the songs encourages methed out mothers to donate their babies to the band so that they can eat them. And if that wasn't degenerate enough, there's another song on the record called Cleveland Metal where they celebrate the town of Cleveland, that hive of scum and villainy. I can't think of much more degeneracy than that. All kidding aside, this is a really fun album. Make sure you check it out. Coming in at number 4, Poison the Preacher versus the World crossover thrash out of Colombia. This record sounds like familiar, albeit excellent, crossover thrash, but the more you listen, you'll start to pick out Latin percussive influences and a couple of other gems here and there subtly mixed in. So it's familiar, it's comfortable, it's the things you know, but the more you listen, the more you'll start to pick out of it. It's kind of like taking a wilderness hike and you come across a small body of water, you're going to get a refreshing drink, and then you realize it's a lot deeper than you first thought. Coming in at number 3, And Oceans, the Regeneration Itinerary, symphonic electronic black metal out of Finland. And let me tell you, this might not be my progressive metal album of the year, but I wish that other prog metal bands would do what this band does, because while all of their prog peers are chasing the oddest time signatures and the most esoteric scales and the grandest displays of virtuosity, And Oceans remembers that they're an extreme metal band first. So crushing riffs and suffocating vocals are the prime movers, and all the little idiosyncrasies just add a touch of flavor. Extreme metal first. So like I said, it may not be my favorite prog album of the year, but it's definitely going to be on the list. Coming in at number 2, Cesian Valow with Umen, progressive metal out of Finland. And first of all, if I mispronounce that, I'm sorry. Text is on the screen just in case. And as always, every band's Bandcamp link will be in the description so that these records are easy to find. Now, when you fire this one up, your first thought will be, okay, this is a stoner metal record. But don't let that fool you. That first riff is just setting it up. The record blooms, and then you'll hear doom, you'll hear prog, you'll hear black metal, you'll hear post metal, and all of these just weave into each other, running the gamut of emotions. This is one of those albums where you're going to have to listen to it multiple times in order to properly consume it, and I'm not complaining about that because it's enjoyable each time. And hey, before we do number 1, it's that time, y'all. Last week, I promised that this week's episode would include the month of May's book recommendation, and considering who was our podcast guest this week, I thought it was fitting to recommend Friedrich Nietzsche, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Now, Nietzsche is one of the more difficult philosophers to read, but this one is a great entry point because it's a story. Just like how before I recommended The Stranger by Camus, it's an easy read because it's a story. You don't have to sift through all the jargon, and you can just get the ideas that he's trying to get across through this work of fiction. And by the way, my copy here, it might look different than the copy in the link in the description. So I'm going to put that cover on the screen real quick so that it's all matchy-matchy. But regardless of which cover you get, it's the book that matters. You definitely want to check out Nietzsche's seminal work. And speaking of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, now let's do number 1. Coming in at number 1, Thus spoke Zarathustra with I'm done with self-care. It's time for others' harm, which might be the best album title of the year, and it's definitely my favorite album of the week. Y'all might have noticed that all the other albums I've mentioned so far are all weird and progressive, and they've got subtle undertones. Forget all that. This is straight up in your face, MySpace era deathcore. This one had me headbanging the most. And that's why it's number one. But we're not done yet because we still got a fun dealer's choice and album art of the week. For my dealer's choice this week, I'm going with Onslaught, Origins of Aggression, thrash metal legends out of the UK. They've been doing this for 40 years. And to celebrate 40 years, they put out a double album. The first side is a bunch of re-recordings of all of their main songs, the career-spanning sort of album. And then the second disc is a bunch of covers of the bands that influenced them. And you'll definitely notice on that second album that there's more punk covers than there are metal. You're gonna see a lot of Discharge, Dead Kennedys, Sex Pistols. There's more punk covers than there are metal covers like Judas Priest and Black Sabbath. And speaking of Black Sabbath, the War Pigs cover, one of my favorite songs of all time, and you can definitely still hear that little tinge of hardcore in their War Pigs cover. And I think that's a good clue as to what sets this band apart from all the other pioneering early 80s thrash metal bands. You can hear that punk influence, so I just had a good time with this one. Make sure you check it out. Now let's do the album art of the week. My favorite album art this week came from Chepang Japa. I'm very sorry about that pronunciation, y'all. Once again, text is on the screen. This is Grindcore out of Nepal. And first, let's talk about the music. Normally, I'm not really into grindcore that much. Imagine that there's a bus and it goes down the road and each stop gets progressively more extreme. You know, starts at heavy metal, gets to thrash metal, gets to death metal, gets to brutal death metal, and I'm on board. I'm enjoying this ride. Give it to me all. Grindcore is usually where I get off the bus, but something about the way these guys do it, the riffs are chuggier. It's still chaotic, but not a cacophony. I can hear the articulation of the notes. It's got a groove and an enthusiasm to it that I really enjoyed. So it turns out maybe I will start getting off on the grindcore stop more often. They just have to have this kind of moxie that Chepang does. And also, I love this art. I love how colorful it is. I love that I can immediately tell that it's an Eastern album and a death metal album, but it's not stereotypical heavy metal, Skulls, Grim Reapers, and in particular, it's not stereotypical grindcore, lo-fi album cover. This is genuinely a work of art. It made me want to listen to the album, so I did, and I really enjoyed that album, which was a surprise, so it opened me up, and that's what good art is for. And hey, heavy metal philosophy supporters, I gotta thank you, because if you're hearing this right now, that means you did the thing that supports the show the most. You watched all the way to the end. Thank you so much. If you liked any of these bands, hit the like button. That'll support a little bit more. And if you want to go beyond that, just go on over to JonBarbas-shop.fourthwall.com. Get you some heavy metal philosophy merch. But I'm just so glad you made it to the end. That's the most important part. Thank you so much. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.